বুঝছো? অ্যাকসেপ্ট করছে? লাইভ টিভি না?
লাইভেই টিপে নেই গালা।
লাইভ টিপার লাগে নাকি?
না, লাইভ এটা হচ্ছে আর কি, ও এখন কানেকশন দেয়নি।
এটা লাইভ না?
হ্যাঁ, লাইভ চলতেছে, ওকে এখন কানেকশন দেয়নি, মানে ও ফ্রি নেই আর কি। ঠিক আছে, কথা বলে রাই বলেন, তুই হেরবে যা তো, তুই বড় তো
লাইভ
বার ঝামেলা
হইতেছে
করছিস।
তো।
হ্যাঁ,
লাইভ হইতেছে না।
আমার স্নেহের শিক্ষার্থীবৃন্দ, আসসালামু আলাইকুম। আজকে আমরা চক্ষু বিষয়ে প্রথম ক্লাসে অ্যানাটমি নিয়ে আলোচনা করব। আমাদের আজকের ক্লাসের টপিকস হচ্ছে অ্যানাটমি অফ দ্য আইবল। আজকে আমি মেডিকেল কলেজে নেই, যেহেতু মেডিকেল কলেজ বন্ধ, তাই বাসায় যেহেতু ক্লাস নিচ্ছি, সে কারণে আমাদের প্রস্তুতি কিছু ঘাটতি আছে। তো সুতরাং আমরা বাসায় যতটুকু অ্যারেঞ্জমেন্ট করা গেল তার উপর নিয়ে ক্লাসটা চালু করলাম। প্রথমে অ্যানাটমি অফ দ্য আইবল। We all know that there are two eyeball in our body. Each eyeball is located in the bony cavity in our body. That bony cavity is located on each both side of our nose. That bony cavity is called the orbit. There are two orbit in our body and two eyeball in our body. Now, anatomy of the eyeball, very important and gross for MBBS students. This is a photograph of eyeball. We know that eyeball is a hollow viscous. It is covered by its 3 layers wall. From outwards to inwards, these walls are, most outer layers is called the connective tissue layer. Most outer layer is connective tissue layer. Middle vascular layer is called the uveal tract, and inner nervous layer is called the retina, and it is a hollow viscous. So inside of the eyeball there is, at first we say that there is a single cavity, total cornea to the retina or optic disc, single cavity. This single cavity at first is subdivided by posterior capsule of the human crystalline lens. So it is divided into two cavity, anterior cavity and this is posterior cavity. Another name of posterior cavity is called the vitreous, but anterior cavity, it is subdivided into two. Demarcation line is iris. Iris subdivided anterior cavity into anterior chamber and this is posterior chamber. So anterior chamber is bounded anteriorly cornea and posteriorly iris and pupil. Posterior chamber, it is bounded anteriorly iris, pupil and posteriorly by the posterior capsule or body of the anterior vitreous. So very important structure of our eyeball, that is human crystalline lens, it is located in the posterior chamber of the eyeball, and anterior narrow space, anterior chamber of the eyeball, it is always filled by the aqueous humor, and large vitreous cavity, it is filled with the vitreous gel-like structure, vitreous. So this is vitreous cavity or posterior cavity, this is posterior chamber, this is anterior chamber. Now different layers of the eyeball, wall of the eyeball. From outwards to inwards, these layers, there are three layers. Most outer layer, that is called the fibrous layer. This fibrous layer is subdivided anteriorly, very small part, anterior 1/4 part is called the cornea, that is called cornea. It is so transparent, it is so transparent, clear, transparent, but posterior 4/5 part, that is whitish, that is called the sclera. That means outer fibrous layer is subdivided into anteriorly cornea and posteriorly sclera, whitish sclera. Middle vascular layer, middle vascular layer, this layer is called, the single name is uveal tract. Middle layer is subdivided from anterior to posterior, most anteriorly iris, middle ciliary body and posteriorly large choroid, and inner nervous layer, that is inner nervous layer, another name is cornea. Its name is only cornea, retina, sorry, its name is retina. Nervous layer is called the retina, its name is only retina, there is another name, no another name. Now for the final professional examination, more important anatomical structure now we will discuss. From at first, the cornea, very important structure is cornea. Cornea, for final professional examination, written, viva, long case, OSPE, both sides, all sides are very important. Cornea, it is so transparent, it is called cornea. In final profession question, in written question for final professional examination, name the histological, draw and label the, very important one of the question, draw and label the histological structures of cornea, very important. This photograph is, this is the histological structures of cornea. cornea is subdivided in 5 layers from outwards to inwards. From outwards to inwards, these are most outer epithelial layer, most outer epithelial layer, then Bowman's membrane. This layer is called the Bowman's membrane. Then more thickened layer, which covers the 90% thickness of cornea. That is called the stromal layer. Stromal layer. This is a stromal layer. Then another very narrow layer, that is called the Decimet's membrane. Most inner layer is called the endothelium. Cornea is very important in written, viva, OSCE examination. So, at first, very small time we give this structure. At first, this is epithelial layer. It is multicellular layer. 6 to 9 stratified squamous cells are arranged in the epithelial cell. Epithelial cell may be regenerate. Any loss of corneal epithelial cell, again formation is possible. Epithelial cell can be regenerate, and most inner layer, it is columnar epithelium, and columnar epithelium always subdivided. Cell division occurs in columnar epithelium, and lost epithelial cell is formed from the most inner layer, epithelial. Second layer, it is nothing. It is one of the connective tissue layer. It is called the basement membrane of the epithelial cell of our cornea. Last very important layer is more thickened layer. It covers the 90% thickness of cornea. It is the stromal layer. That is the stroma. In between the chloranazole and fibrils, glycoprotein ground substances is located in the stromal layer. Importance of stromal layer is it never regenerate. Any loss of stromal part of the cornea and corneal edema is developed, cornea is damaged. Now, endothelium, because it maintains the corneal transparency. So, corneal endothelial layer is very important for our body. There are tight junction in between. It is single layer endothelial cell. There are tight junction in between the endothelium, and there are multiple enzyme system occurs located in the endothelial cell membrane. These are sodium potassium ATPase mechanism, carbonic anhydrase mechanism. Now, what are the functions of these enzyme mechanisms? These enzyme mechanisms are always active transport occurs in the endothelial cell, and sodium potassium ATPase mechanism and the sodium hydrogen ATPase mechanism are also occurs in this endothelial cell, and it prevents this endothelium. Very important is this is located in endothelial cell, and it prevents the aqueous entrance inside the cornea, because corneal transparency is very important for vision. It is one of the refractive media. So, its transparency is very important for seeing of any object. That's why corneal transparency is maintained by the endothelial cell. Now, endothelial cell count. It is on average 2500 per square millimeter of space. Amount of endothelial cells are counted 2500 per square millimeter of space. If any disease condition or any aging process, these endothelial cell never regenerate. So, if endothelial cell is lost below 500 per square millimeter, then endothelial compensation is lost. Endothelial cells compensation is lost, resulting aqueous is entrance inside the cornea. Aqueous humor entrance inside the cornea. Corneal edema developed, and also corneal edema developed and cornea becomes hazy. So we cannot see any object. So endothelial cell is very important for maintenance the corneal transparency, and endothelial cell cannot regenerate. Stroma is never regenerate. Now we will discuss some topics, some diseases of cornea. At first, what is keratitis? Corneal abrasion. What is corneal At first, what is keratitis? Inflammation of cornea is called keratitis, related to the loss of epithelial cell. What is corneal abrasion? Corneal abrasion means loss of epithelial cell. Any loss of epithelial cell, due to any loss of epithelial cell, is called the corneal abrasion. Corneal abrasion is not related to the disease. Now, what is corneal ulceration? Corneal ulceration is defined as slough out or loss of corneal epithelium underneath the stroma. That means epithelial cell loss, basement membrane loss, Bowman's membrane layer loss, and some stromal loss. After lossing, that is called the corneal ulceration. It is the difference between the corneal abrasion and the corneal ulceration. Corneal abrasion only loss of epithelium, not related to disease, but in case of corneal ulceration, epithelial cell, Bowman's membrane up to stromal layer is lost. Slough out of this layer is called the corneal ulceration, and corneal ulceration is usually associated with infection, supported infection, either bacterial infection or fungal infection or viral infection. These are related to the corneal ulceration. But in case of corneal abrasion, there is no related any trauma, any aging process. Only epithelial cell loss is called the abrasion. Now, what do you mean by the corneal degeneration? It is very important. It is immunologically determined, genetic determined disease, which is occurs in both eye. There is opacification occurs in the cornea in both eye, which is genetically determined. That is the corneal degeneration. And the corneal dystrophy. Corneal degeneration is usually centrally opacification in both eye, always in the both eye, and it is centrally opacification, that is corneal dystrophy. But in case of corneal degeneration, that is uniocular or binocular opacification, but it is not genetically determined. It is usually due to aging process or disease process. So it is the basic difference of dystrophy and the corneal degeneration. Now, very important in cornea is the corneal ulceration. In case of corneal ulceration, classify. Definition we've already described. Now, classify corneal ulceration. Etiological classification. Fungal corneal ulceration, viral corneal ulceration, bacterial corneal ulceration. Very, very important. Written examination and also viva examination. Differentiate. How can you differentiate bacterial, fungal and viral corneal ulceration? In case of fungal corneal ulceration, there is always related to the vegetative trauma, that means agricultural trauma. And most important characteristics of fungal corneal ulceration is there is a central, near about central, most large central lesion. It is called cheesy lesion. Cheesy, dry cheesy lesion, central corneal lesion associated with multiple satellite lesion in the cornea. Large central cheesy dry lesion with multiple satellite lesion. It is the characteristic features of fungal corneal ulceration. And in case of fungal corneal ulceration, its shape is feathery-like shape, branching, feathery-like ulceration, irregular feathery-like ulceration. That is the fungal corneal ulceration. Now, viral corneal ulceration. Viral corneal ulceration, fungal corneal ulceration is usually uniocular. In case of viral corneal ulceration, it is called the viral keratitis. Its characteristic features are less symptom, more sign. It is each symptom is look like allergy, foreign body sensation, watering, more watering, less discharge. In case of viral corneal ulceration, more watering, less discharge, and redness is less redness of the eyeball. It is usually uniocular but may be binocular. এটা এক চোখে হতে পারে আবার দুই চোখে হতে পারে in case of viral keratitis. Diagnostic criteria of viral keratitis is branching pattern, tree-like branching pattern in case of viral keratitis. So in case of fungal corneal ulceration, usually uniocular, maybe binocular. Or in case of viral keratitis, usually in case of bacterial corneal ulceration, it is more symptom, less sign. Severe eye ache, lid edema, photophobia, redness, more discharge. And in case of bacterial corneal keratitis, ulceration usually not occurs, and if ulceration is occurs, may be healed, less opacification. But in case of fungal corneal ulceration, after relief of the disease, after damage of the fungus, after dying of the fungus, but there is a bad impression in our cornea, that is there is a large opacification is developed in case of fungal corneal ulceration. And in case of viral corneal ulceration is untreated or maltreated, corneal opacification may develop also in the viral keratitis. So what is corneal opacification? What is the problem of the corneal opacification? It is a great problem. Corneal opacification is great problem in our body, because cornea is one of the important refractive media, and if opacification is developed, then light is obstructed, reflected light from the seeing object is obstructed, so light cannot enter in the retina, so we cannot see the object. So corneal opacity is the great problem for our eye. Its treatment is surgical. Name of the treatment is keratoplasty, that means corneal transplantation. No medical treatment for corneal opacification. Corneal opacification is a very bad disease. No medical treatment, only surgical treatment. Now the opacification's names is the nebula macula leucoma. Nebula macula leucoma. There are 3 types of opacification. So we will discuss the disease in the next class. Now we are discussing about the anatomical structures. Now I will discuss about the inner layer, most important layer, inner layer. Inner layer is called the nervous layer and its name is retina. Very important. Retina is very important. In case of diabetic patient, hypertensive patient, aging patient, retina is damaged, retinopathy is developed. So we see the retina. We see any object by the retina, not by the lens, not by the cornea. We see only by the retina. Our important visual part of the eyeball is the retina. At the very beginning, the important written question for our students in 5th year in ophthalmology, in the microscopic or electron microscopic features or histological features of the retina. We all know that there are 10 layers. There are 10 layers of the retina. How many layers? 10 layers of the retina. But it anotherly described that there are 2 layers of very interesting. There are 2 layers of the retina. How it possible? Yes. Retina is at first divided into 2 layers. Most outer is called the RPE and inner 9 layers is called the neurosensory retina. So retina is two part, RPE, neurosensory retina. Neurosensory retina is againly subdivided into 9 layers. From outwards to inwards, these layers are rods and cones. External limiting membrane. Outer nuclear layer. Outer flexiform layer, inner nuclear layer, inner flexiform layer, ganglion cell layer, nerve fiber layer, internal limiting membrane. This is, I am very weak in the photograph. This photograph is drawn by my younger sister. Thanks to Orin. Orin is drawn this picture, but I am very weak in the photograph. Now, very important is the retina. Retina, this is the 10 layers of the retina. In the final professional examination, this figure is very important. Electron microscopic features. Now, very shortly describe different parts. This is RP, retina RP, retinal pigmented epithelium. This is ciliated. Ciliary process is located in the epithelial RP, and there is a tight junction, zonula occludens. Zonula occludens is in the RP cells, and RP cells is retinal pigmented epithelial cell. It is very important that it maintains the blood-brain barrier, BBB, blood-brain. It maintains the blood-brain barrier. That is the important layer of the RP. In between RPE and the rod, layers of the rod, there is small space. that is called the subretinal space. That is very small narrow space in between the RPE and the neurosensory retina. That is called the neurosensory retina. Very narrow space, that is called the subretinal space. It is very small narrow potential space. In this space, any collection of the fluid, any connection of the blood, any collection of anything, resulting separation of inner layer, inner neurosensory layer from the RP, that is called the retinal detachment. So, one of the clinical question, what is RD, retinal detachment? Classify retinal detachment. RD, retinal detachment. Separation of neurosensory retina from the RP is called the retinal detachment. Retinal detachment is classified three types. Number one, exudative retinal detachment. Number two, traumatic retinal detachment. Another one is the rhegmatogenous retinal detachment. Exudative, rhegmatogenous, exudative, rhegmatogenous, and the traumatic retinal detachment. Now, layers of the rods and cones. We all know that there is a it is very visual pigments is located in the rod and cones, rhodopsin and iodopsin. This is very important. It converts light sensation to the neurosensation. It converts the light reflex, light sensation to the neurosensation and transmit the sensation inside the in the brain through the visual pathway, and we can see the object. Next layer, external limiting membrane. Next, outer nuclear layer. It is nothing. This is the nucleus, cell body of the rods and cones. Rods and cones cell body aggregated in this layer, that is the outer nuclear layer. Outer flexiform layer. It is nothing. It is the rods and cones, outer flexiform layer. Inner nuclear layer is consist of by the amacrine cell, bipolar cell. These are bipolar cells. And inner flexiform layer is nothing. It is the axonal fibers of the bipolar cell and ganglion cell layer. Very important is ganglion cell is located. Ganglion cell is the nothing. It is the ganglion of the bipolar cell. Bipolar cells ganglions are aggregated here. That is the ganglion cell. Very important is the ganglion cell is the second order neuron and bipolar cell is the first order neuron for the visual pathway. Very important. What are the name the three order neurons for visual pathway? First order neuron in the bipolar cell, second order neuron in the ganglion cell, and third order neuron in the lateral geniculate body. These are the three neurons for the visual pathway. Next, nerve fiber layer. It is the axonal fibers of the ganglion cell. Ganglion cells axonal fibers are aggregated and form the nerve fiber layer. Internal limiting membrane. It is the barrier membrane which separates our retina from the vitreous cavity. Now, these nerve fiber layer, very important. Nerve fiber layer are aggregated, are coalesced in the optic disc and form the optic nerve. Optic nerve is nothing. It is the collection of the axonal fibers, non-modulated axonal fibers of the nerve fiber layer. That is the optic disc. It is the histological structure of the retina. But in gross anatomy, we very interesting is retina is we can see retina by the fundoscopic examination or ophthalmoscopic examination. We can see the retina by the ophthalmoscopic examination. Now, what is ophthalmoscopic examination? What is ophthalmoscopy? What is fundoscopy? It is nothing. It is the ocular examination procedure by which we can see the retina. Most accurately called, we can see the fundus of the retina. Now, procedure or prerequisite of the fundoscopy. For the fundoscopy of a patient, Oren, come here. For fundoscopic examination, I can see in my baby. For fundoscopic examination of our eye, our target is to see the retina. It is the only department of medical science in which we can directly see our body's visible vessels. So it is very, very interesting. From the very beginning, we introduce one drop of dilating drug, mydriatic drug named tropicamide in the eyeball. Tropicamide. Wait for 20 to 30 minutes. Properly dilatation of the pupil will be occurs. Then we examine the patient by using a good ophthalmoscope. After proper dilatation, in case of patient right eye, examiner should use his right eye, and ophthalmoscope is taken in his right eye. This is now look like that. Wow, so nicely seen retina, very nicely seen in the retina. At first we see the central retina, macula lutea and the optic disc. If patient look in the target object during my examination, we can see the optic disc. From the optic disc, we see through the vascular arcade in the peripheral. We see the peripheral retina through the vascular arcade, supratemporal arcade, supratemporal arcade, supranasal arcade, infratemporal arcade, infranasal arcade. At first, optic disc, then through the vascular arcade, supratemporal, supranasal, infratemporal, infranasal arcade. So peripheral retina we can see. Then we can see the macula. Macula is located, very, very important. Macula is located two disc distance from optic disc. In the temporally, macula is located temporally than the optic disc. So optic disc is nasally and macula located temporally. Distance is 2 disc diameter. Now, how many diameter in the optic disc? Optic disc is 1.5 millimeter in diameter. Optic disc is 1.5 millimeter in diameter. So, macula is located in the 2 discs. That means 1.5 gone to 3 millimeter temporal to the optic disc. Macula is located 3 millimeter temporal side from the optic disc. And macula is bounded supratemporal arcade and the infratemporal arcade of the blood vessels. We all know that central retinal artery is at first two branching, upper arcade, lower arcade, upper branch, lower branch. Upper branch supranasal, supratemporal arcade. Lower branch infratemporal, infranasal arcade. This is the peripheral retina is seen. Macula is again subdivided in the fovea, umbo, and the foveolar avascular zone, these. And peripheral retina is again subdivided into the far retina, and also the ora serrata. This is not very important for fifth year examination. It is the deep question. Now some diseases. What are the structure we see in the fundoscopic examination? What are the structure? At first, anatomical structure: optic disc, macula lutea, peripheral retina. There are normal anatomical structure, blood vessels. But in case of diseased condition, in fundoscopic examination, we can detect, we can diagnose the diabetic retinopathy patient, hypertensive retinopathy patient. In case of macular hole, cystoid macular edema, and also the some exudate, bleeding hemorrhage, intraretinal hemorrhage. These diseases can be detected by the fundoscopic examination. Always fundoscopic examination and the patient's history correlated, and also the some investigation helps diagnosis of our retinal diseases. Okay, ma? Now we will discuss about the eyelid. Very important. Okay, ma, eyelid. In our each eyeball, in our each eye, there are two important shutter, upper shutter, lower shutter, which helps to close and open of our eyeball. So this eyelid, very important structure for protection of our eyeball. Eyelid is important at first beauty, cosmetic excellency, and very important is the protection of our eyeball. So this is called the upper eyelid, this is lower eyelid. Now very important question for fifth year examination, fifth year students, is the histological layers or histological structures of the eyeball. This is one of the diagram for histological layers of the eyeball. Histological structure of the eyeball, the eyelid, histological structures of the eyelid. From outwards to inwards: skin, subcutaneous areolar layer, striated muscles layer, connective tissue layer, non-striated muscles layer, and most inner is the covered by the conjunctiva. We all know that our lid, its outer surface and the inner surface is always covered by the conjunctiva. That conjunctiva is called the palpebral conjunctiva. That is the palpebral conjunctiva. Now this is the orbicularis oculi muscles, skeletal muscles, orbicularis oculi muscles. Important muscles of the eyelid is at first orbicularis oculi muscles. This is a skeletal muscles. It is skeletal muscles. Next, LPS, levator palpebrae superioris, LPS. There are two skeletal muscles or striated muscles. One is orbicularis oculi, another one is the LPS, levator palpebrae superioris. Next, this is the molar muscles. It is smooth muscles. It is non-striated muscles. This is orbital septum and the orbital cartilage. Orbital septum and the tarsal plate. It is the connective tissue layer or fibrous layer. Very important, exocrine glands are located in the in the eyeball. These are very important. Is Meibomian gland. Meibomian gland. It is one of the. It is modified sebaceous gland, exocrine gland. It is the Meibomian gland. This Meibomian gland very important. It secretes the secretion which form our tear film. So Meibomian gland is very important. And two accessory lacrimal gland. Number 1, number 2. Glands of Taus, glands of Wolfering, glands of Taus. And in the eyelash follicles, root of the near the cilia, there are two important exocrine glands. Glands of Zayas, glands of Mole. Glands of Zayas, glands of Mole. So these are the exocrine glands. So exocrine glands are Meibomian gland, glands of Zayas, glands of Mole, glands of Wolfering, glands of Krauss. These are the exocrine glands of our eyelid. Now, there is an important skeleton in our eyeball, in our eyelid, that is called the tarsal plate. It is bony cartilage, and another one is the orbital septum. These are the connective tissue layer of the eyelid. Now, very important question for Viva examinations are nerve supply of lid muscles. Nerve supply of the lid muscles. This is orbicularis oculi. Orbicularis oculi, it is supplied by the facial nerve. This is LPS, levator palpebris superioris. It is supplied by the, this muscles is supplied by the upper division of oculomotor nerve, upper division of the third nerve. And this is mular muscles, it is smooth muscles. It is supplied by the cervical sympathetic ganglion. So these are the parasympathetic supply, parasympathetic, this is sympathetic supply. Cervical sympathetic ganglion, sympathetic fibers. Now, lid closure, very important question in the Viva, lid closure and lid opener. Orbicularis oculi muscles are lid closure. It helps to close our eyeball, close our eyelid, and narrowing of our fissure. Now, what is orbital fissure? Orbital fissure means the space in between upper lid margin and the lower lid margin. This narrow space is called the orbital fissure. Orbital fissure is the window for seeing of our eyeball. This is upper eyelid, this is lower eyelid. This is orbital fissure. This is large orbital fissure, this is narrow orbital fissure. That means orbital fissure means the space in between two lid margin. So, orbicularis oculi helps to close upper eyeball. Close. Chok band karo ma. Chok. That is action of the orbicularis oculi. Chok kholo. Elevation of the upper lid. Elevator is the LPS. LPS helps the elevation of the upper lid. LPS, levator palpebris superioris, it is only upper eyelid. It is the muscles of the upper eyelid. LPS is absent in the lower eyelid. So, upper lid elevation helps by the LPS and upper lid close by the orbicularis oculi. Orbicularis oculi supplied by the facial nerve, LPS supplied by the upper division of the third nerve, third intracranial nerve. And smooth muscles is mular muscles. It is supplied with this sympathetic supply. It is supplied by the cervical sympathetic fibers. Now, very important structure is the lid margin. Very important, eyelid margin. Our eyelid margin. Lid margin, anterior region and posterior region. Anterior region is smooth and posterior region is the sharp. and near the posterior margin, near the posterior margin, lid margin's posterior part, near the posterior part, there are the multiple small opening where the duct of the Meibomian gland duct is opened. Meibomian gland's duct is opened, and in between opening and the anterior margin there is a line that is called the gray line. Gray line is surgically very important in the lid surgery. If any surgery is done for the lid, there is incision is done through the gray line, through the lid margin's gray line. So gray line is surgically very important. And eyelash, this is the eyelash, very important. Multiple eyelashes. Eyelashes direction is very important. Eyelashes direction is very important. In case of upper lid lashes, directed forwards and upwards, and lower lids lashes, directed backwards and upwards. So direction of the eyelashes is very important. Now some very small diseases of the eyelid diseases such as, at first, very important, ptosis. What do you mean by the ptosis? Dropping of the upper eyelid is called the ptosis, or downward dislocation or downward dropping of the upper lid is called the ptosis. Causes of the ptosis, very important for written question. What are the causes of the ptosis? Neurogenic cause, myogenic cause, involutional cause, mechanical cause. Mechanical ptosis means that means any weight in the upper lid due to any disease, any cause, such as lid edema, lid growth, lid lipoma, fibroma, or giant calazion, resulting weighting of the upper lid and the downwards dislocated of the upper lid, that is called the mechanical ptosis. Neurogenic ptosis, due to paralysis, due to loss of innervation of the nerve, just such as third nerve palsy. This is the neurogenic ptosis. Myogenic ptosis, such as in case of myasthenia gravis, myogenic ptosis. Involutional ptosis, due to aging process. Involutional ptosis, it is due to the aging process, such as more aged person and legs of the lid, downward dropping of the upper lid. That is the involutional or aging causes of the ptosis. This is the causes of the ptosis. Treatment of the ptosis is ptosis is always surgically. LPS muscles resection. Surgery is called the LPS resection. Resection of the LPS, then surgically stitching and elevation of the upper eyelid. That is called the surgical treatment of ptosis. Another diseases of the eyelid. Such as, very important, what do you mean by the trichiasis? What do you mean by the dystrichiasis? Trichiasis means misdirected eyelashes. Trichiasis. Lashes is directed outwards. If eyelashes is directed inwards, that is called the trichiasis. Not necessary to all the eyelashes. Some eyelashes is directed inwards, resulting always irritating of our cornea and corneal abrasion. Corneal abrasion is occurs. So trichiasis is called the misdirected eyelashes. And what is dystrichiasis? Dystrichiasis means double row of eyelashes, one row and another row in the inside. That is abnormal. Another row is formed in the eyelashes. That is called the dystrichiasis. What is entropion? What is ectopion? Entropion means, come here. Entropion means inward rolling. That is inward rolling of the inward. That is the lid margin. Inward rolling of the lid margin is called the entropion. What is ectopion? Outward rolling of the lid margin is called the ectopion. What is the problem of the entropion? Entropion's problems is as the problem of the trichiasis. Lashes always irritate the cornea, damage of our cornea, foreign body sensation of the cornea. So, entropion is great problem. What is the problem of the ectopion? Ectopion problems is inability to the close of our eyeball. Fissure is always large, unable to the close. Always eyeball is contract with the. So both are problem. One irritate always cornea and damage of the cornea, corneal ulceration, corneal abrasion occurs. Another one is the always foreign body exposure keratopathy occurs in case of ectopion. So important in the lids are ptosis, entropion, ectopion, trichiasis, dystrichiasis, chalazion. What do you mean by the chalazion? Chalazion is the nothing but granulomatous lesion in the Meibomian gland. It is called the chalazion. Chalazion is nothing. There is a granulomatous lesion in the Meibomian gland, resulting swelling of the lid margin. So it is called the chalazion. Another name of the chalazion is called the external hordeolum. Now, what is internal hordeolum? If infection occurs in the external hordeolum means Meibomian gland. Internal hordeolum means infected chalazion is called the internal hordeolum. Now, what is stye? Stye is nothing. Staphylococcal infection in the eyelash follicle. Infection in the eyelash follicle is called the stye. So, very small swelling occurs in the near about the lid margin. That is the stye. There is a difference between stye and the chalazion. Stye occurs near the lid margin, but chalazion occurs away from the lid margin. Stye always painful because it is infected by the Staphylococcus infection. So it is infected, so it is swelling and the redness, swelling, redness, painful, tender, but it is non-tender swelling. In case of chalazion, it is non-tender swelling and it is painless. There is no redness, no redness, no local taste in case of chalazion. This is the basic difference in between the stye and the chalazion. Very, very important for the written examination and also the viva examination. Differ between the stye and the chalazion. Now, one structure I will very shortly describe. That is the middle layer. Very important middle layer. Middle layer is called the uveal tract. Uveal tract. It is subdivided from anterior to posterior, iris, ciliary body, and the choroid. Choroid is consist of choriocapillaries, outer limiting membrane, stroma, and the internal Brooks membrane. And in the ciliary body, it is very, very important structure. for our MBBS students are ciliary body, there is a ciliary muscles. Ciliary muscles, it is important because it helps in accommodation. How? If ciliary muscles contract, slacks or relax of suspensory ligament, resulting increase the anterior posterior diameter of our human crystalline lens, resulting increase convergence power, increase the convergency of the light and helps to the meted in the macula lutea. And also it also helps the increase anterior posterior diameter of the, in case of accommodation, another one is the increase the anterior posterior diameter of the total eyeball. So it is important. Another important muscles is important structure is the iris. Important iris, there is two important muscles. One is the sphincter pupillae and the dilator pupillae. The sphincter pupillae, it is supplied by the parasympathetic fibers of the oculomotor nerve. But in case of dilator pupillae, it is supplied by the sympathetic cervical sympathetic fibers. So dilator pupillae sympathetic fibers and constrictor pupillae is the supplied by the parasympathetic fibers of the third nerve, oculomotor nerve. Constrictor pupillae, actions of constrictor pupillae is the pupil constriction of the pupil, and dilator pupillae muscles action is the dilatation of the pupil. That means mydriasis. So for miosis, parasympathetic action; for mydriasis, sympathetic action. Today, very short time, only 1 hour. So I cannot end the total anatomical structure. In the next class, we will discuss in the disease, in different disease. We will discuss about the different disease. Thanks to all of my heartiest students and also the Axis Medical School for nice helps to the of our medical students in this COVID period. The classes are off, so it is very helpful for our students. I especially thanks to Tarek for arranging these types of class, which helps of our MBBS students. Thanks to all of my students. Thanks to Axis Medical School. Assalamu alaikum.